In Between Worlds, A Mixed Identity and the Making of an Educator, an Autoethnography by Julia Hubbard. I understood my identity long before I had the language to explain it. Before puberty, my hair was a loose curl pattern, and paired with my pale skin and green eyes, I was often read as white by classmates and teachers. Elementary school is typically where children become conscious of what sets them apart from others, and for me, that moment came when I tried to join the clique of Latin girls in my class. Many of them spoke Spanish, and I remember the sting of being ostracized for not being bilingual. Even though I was raised by a Latina woman and felt culturally connected to them, I realized for the first time that other people saw me differently than how I saw myself. Eve Ewing explains that school is often the primary site where this happens, calling it the first encounter with what scholars call race salience. In that moment, I was being processed by the race machine, a social system that takes our infinite diversity and complexity and sorts us into something much simpler. The girls, acting as agents of this machine, took my complex, culturally rooted identity and sorted me into the simple, visible category of white. I wasn't just a girl who loved her mother's arroz con carne molida. I was now a girl being raced for the first time, my internal reality flattened by an external label. In my family, this complexity was visible to me. My mother has tan skin and dark hair. She is visibly ethnic in a way that I will never be. What intensified my feeling of being different physically was that my relatives were Central American and Caribbean. All of them had brown or tan skin and dark eyes. Meanwhile, I inherited traits from my father's mother, an Irish immigrant with blue eyes and dirty blonde hair. My family history is layered even further. My Surinamese grandfather had a light-skinned black mother, which was likely a result of even more mixing in my lineage. This resulted in my father being pale while his brother is not. Across both sides of my family, the people I most resemble are the ones I have the weakest relationship with. This created a strange disconnect. I resembled the side of my family I barely knew. This taught me early that appearance only tells a fraction of the story, a lesson I carry into my beliefs and want to carry into my career. Growing up between a visibly ethnic mother and an Irish-descended grandmother taught me early that identity is not just inherited, it is interpreted by the world around you, leaving an immense amount of space for misinterpretations. Being white passing granted me privileges many family and classmates lacked, the confidence to move through academic spaces without fear of racial stereotyping. White students experience a racial lift by virtue of not having necessarily to negotiate a culture in schools that is foreign to them. Because I was perceived as white, I was granted this same racial lift. My education was by default culturally relevant to the dominant norm. This privilege provided a sense of safety and security, encouraging me to be more outspoken. Yet my diverse background kept me tethered to a deeper awareness. Feeling in between communities made me highly observant of how race shapes belonging. As someone who benefited from white passing privilege while being culturally mixed, I learned to look more closely at people, recognizing both the advantages I received and the ways others may lack them. Teachers and peers often treated me simply as white, overlooking the complexity of my background. This invisibility of whiteness shaped others' perception, forcing me to navigate spaces that assumed a racial simplicity my layered identity defied. Watching my single mother put herself through college, pushing toward a master's but stopping for stability, instilled her drive in me. Education became something I valued, not just abstractly, but personally, a path toward independence, security, and upward mobility. I want to remain in school as long as possible because I witnessed firsthand the doors that education opened for my mom and therefore me. My mother's personality and values amplified this. She is an outspoken, strong woman who always said, "If you don't ask, people will overlook you." Her influence combined with my lived experiences made me an outgoing and assertive person. I learned early that people are nuanced, that appearance does not reveal identity, and that students carry stories teachers may know nothing about. One moment in school reinforced this for me. During a back-to-school night activity, my teacher tried to match parents to students. Unsurprisingly, she took 4 guesses trying to identify which parent belonged to me. Eventually, she gave up. She told me the next day, but not out of malice. Still, the moment reminded me that educators often make assumptions based off of appearance. Those assumptions can make students feel invisible or misunderstood. Experiences like this were part of what inspired me to want to be a teacher who is more aware. Even before deciding to pursue teaching, I enacted these beliefs by making my cultural identity visible in school spaces. As I grew older, I took pride in my heritage and that of others. I became the friend who expressed curiosity in the things that influenced them to become who they are, participate in the holidays they do, or even how they spend time with family. These moments were small, but they reflected an early interest in affirming identity and creating belonging values that I hope to bring into my future classroom. My layered family history is why I want to teach. I understand how identity shapes schooling through lived experience, not theory. My values and beliefs about education are deeply tied to the experiences that shaped my identity. As someone who benefited from white passing privilege yet was culturally mixed, I learned to look more closely at people, recognizing my privilege and the ways others may lack it. I believe that students deserve teachers who see them fully beyond their appearance, family structure, or socioeconomic status. This belief comes largely from watching my mother navigate higher education as a single parent and from witnessing how often students like myself misread others based on surface-level assumptions. I grew up understanding that identity is layered and that schools often fail to recognize this complexity. As a result, I value equity, representation, cultural understanding, and the belief that all students can succeed when their identities are affirmed. Therefore, my commitment is not abstract. In an urban preschool classroom, this means concrete action. First, normalizing multilingualism. Never treating a student's home language as a barrier, but as the asset it is, and incorporating it into our daily routines. Second, utilizing optional family information forms, not to label, but to celebrate and integrate the vast resources and cultures families bring. Actively working to dismantle the separation that deficit thinking creates. In my belief, if classes were run with an active encouragement of identity, then equity would follow, meaning the privilege I experienced would no longer be an unearned advantage for other white-presenting students, and the field of education could move closer to true equality. The sorting machine I experienced operates with devastating efficiency in under-resourced urban schools, where race and class stratifications are most concentrated. My racial lift is the inverse of the push-out experienced by many students of color in those same systems. The snapshots of my educational journey are not merely personal memories, but diagnostic images of how U.S. schools function as sorting machines that privilege the perception over complex reality. My experience suspended between the privilege of whiteness and the marginalization of my cultural and economic heritage illuminates the core mechanics of educational inequity. My story reveals the direct connection between social identity and educational opportunity.